The most gratifying thing is that the technologies I worked on with my team has saved millions of lives around the world. We have extended the limits of space exploration and enhanced our understanding of the universe, and we provided for the defense and security of our nation. Second, that when the sale took place, it was not just Charles Crocker and Asad Madni that walked away financially as millionaires. No, the team that stood by us through all these years, every one of them walked away where they could afford to retire and were financially independent.
Today we welcome Dr. Asad Madni, a renowned engineer, inventor, and visionary leader whose groundbreaking innovations have revolutionized industries from aerospace to automotive safety. He is best known for the development of the MEMS gyro chip, a miraculous technology that has saved millions of lives. It's used for electronic stability control inside of automobiles. It is also used for advanced guidance in various aerospace applications.
The Russo-Ukrainian war and Israel-Palestine war are raging. Engineering continues to be at the center of these conflicts, not only in the development and deployment of weapons and defense infrastructure, but in all communication networks, transportation systems. Given the power and centrality of engineering in global conflicts, as well as the rapid pace at which engineering and technology are evolving, it is increasingly critical to explore how engineering can be used to facilitate peace.
With a distinguished academic background from the University of California, Los Angeles, and a successful career leading BEI Technologies, Dr. Madni's contributions have been recognized with numerous accolades, including the 2022 IEEE Medal of Honor, the 2023 John Fritz Medal, and in 2024, he was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. Dr. Madni continues to inspire and mentor the next generation of engineers, and he remains committed to addressing humanity's greatest challenges through innovative solutions. Dr. Madni, thank you for coming on to National Champion Radio.
Andre, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I have to say that your enthusiasm is quite contagious. I'm looking forward to our interview.
Yes, very much, very much. So I think what we talked about, really getting into from the top, you think it'd be better to teach children, young people even, the applications of math or the applications of science before teaching them the algorithms or the postulates or the theorems, etc. Maybe you can speak more on that and maybe even bring some of that to the forefront. What are some of these applications that young people, how can we switch that paradigm maybe in K through 12 where instead of just walking in and they're throwing algebra equations at you, they first outline, here's what you can do with that.
Well, that's exactly, if you see some of my speeches that I've given, and if you look at some of my past interviews, I make a very strong point of this thing. We talk about why are not more people going into engineering and technology. We talk of why is there a decline, for example, in electrical engineering or mechanical engineering, what have you. Well, take a step back and let's analyze ourselves. And then before we say, oh, the kid, she's not interested in engineering, she's not interested in engineering, look at what we do to them. These kids come from high school. They come to our classes. We start hitting them with calculus and differential equations, vector analysis, tensor analysis. We scare the living hell out of them.
Yeah.
And then say, they're not interested in engineering. Well, I think the problem is with our academic curriculum. We are the root cause.
Mm-hmm.
You want to first instill fear of mathematics and physics and chemistry, and then expect them to get excited. How does that happen? How does that happen? How can you get somebody excited after you've instilled fear? Now think about it the opposite way. When these students come, this is what I have proposed, even at UCLA. Ask them, how many of you can live without your cell phones? Well, you can't. Well, okay. So here's a centfold. Let's take it apart. What do you think is inside it? Well, you see, this chip is a transmitter. This is a receiver. This does signal processing and so on and so forth. Without this, you would not be able to talk to your friends, your family. You couldn't be surfing the net. You couldn't be getting all this information on your fingertips. You see, so that's technology. This is what electrical engineering, computer science will teach you. Well, how many of you are interested in NASA's missions to space? Show them a few videos. Get them. Oh, you'll see so many hands go up.
Yeah.
How many people interested? But what do you think makes it happen? You
Yeah.
know, the same kind of technology. And this is the technology that you're going to be learning here. How many of you are excited with that? Well, they'll put up their hands. Then you tell them, but you need to understand it's a difficult field. It's not easy. Not everyone can do it. But if you really want to do it, you have to excel at math and physics and your scientific classes. And that's what we hope to teach you over here. So you can be the next generation of leaders coming up with technology that we can't even imagine today. So the bottom line is, you're absolutely correct. We have to first inspire them and then throw the difficult stuff at them, not scare them and then wonder why they're not being inspired.
It seems so straightforward, so obvious. Like it's such, it's a miracle. I don't know. It's a mystery why the application set isn't more widely spread, widely taught. You know, all the great inventors of the past, the great engineers and mathematicians, the abilities that they're able to do. Your cell phone, your car, your you know, you like on the being on a plane. Let's break it down. You know, so yeah, these.
And the second thing that we have to do, second thing we have to do is instill and nurture creativity. Easier said than done.
Yeah.
But allow the students not to be boxed in their classes, to think just the way the teacher thinks. Don't penalize students for thinking different. Encourage them to think different. Out of 10 ideas, they may come up with 9 ideas that may not be viable, but all they've got to hit is that one idea, and that can change the world. So reward creativity, reward thinking different. Don't turn everybody into a conformist. Look at the nonconformists and give them an opportunity to be creative. The basic foundation and the core competency of our nation has always been innovation and creativity.
Yeah, that's potent. I mean, without that, we begin to lose our stature in the world, and that may be as nations rise and fall historically. It's something, you know, I realize, you know, I'm gonna have to live with this nation for the rest of the century, very likely. You know, I'll be here for the until, you know, later into the century, having to deal with the outcomes of not installing and implementing some of these thoughts early on, and getting a widespread education. We have a great college education in the United States, yet K through 12 is, you know, towards the bottom of a lot of global lists, and it's kind of, it's ridiculous. You know, I'm a first generation college graduate. I went to community college and jumped around, eventually getting to University of Michigan, and then coming back for a master's degree. And that, I mean, that changed my life completely, you know, and I had the aptitude for it, but having to find the opportunity for it was a different route. But spreading that to where it's not so hard to find this information that's right there, you know, some of these basic ideals and principles.
Well, you went to University of Michigan, it's one of the truly great schools, so you understand. We have the best college level academic institute in the world by far.
Yeah.
And you're also right that at the K through 12 education, we've got some very good private schools and very few public schools. But in general, our public schools rank nowhere even close to the half on a worldwide basis. So that's a real problem. That is absolutely a real problem.
Yeah. Yeah, something that needs to get solved. And hopefully, you know, as we talk, I mean, about these podcasts and these new media forms coming together, you know, we can spread that more and more to the right audience. That's obviously the aim here, is to get that going. And so with that, I think you use the term thinking in the terms of the 21st century a lot when I listen to you speak. And I think that's a big thing. Like, here we are almost 25 years into the century, the long tail still to go, and technology moving faster than ever. So maybe you can start there with your vision for how you want to bring leaders together at this time.
That sounds good. Andre, if you look around us today, and certainly throughout my career, I don't think I've witnessed any other period where we have been faced with such extraordinary challenges. It started off with the COVID-19. We all know what happened there. And then you look around us, the political polarization, the wars going on in the Middle East, in Ukraine. I mean, it's just one thing after another, and it's only going to get worse. And the reason is there are so many things that contribute to this. People do not understand what to believe because there isn't such sufficient information. Today, you've got technology that can be used to intentionally give you false information and mislead people. You saw what happened with the COVID-19 vaccination. So keeping all this into account, at the National Academy of Engineering, myself and two other colleagues of mine are working on developing a prospectus. And let me tell you a little bit about what this symposium would really involve. But first, allow me to give you the context.
Okay.
The engineering profession and the etymology of the word engineer has deep entanglements with war. Military engineering is largely considered to be the oldest branch of engineering. Early engineering artifacts include fortifications and weaponry that played central roles in the rise and fall of ancient empires. And indeed, the first American engineering school was the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, founded in 1802. In the late 1990s and the early 2000s, studies estimated that between 30 to 60% of all U.S. engineers were involved in full or part-time military research. Fast forward, in 2023, the Russo-Ukrainian War and Israel-Palestine War are raging. Engineering continues to be at the center of these conflicts, not only in the development and deployment of weapons and defense infrastructure, but in all communication networks, transportation systems, data management, and the spread of information and misinformation about conflicts. For instance, the Russian invasion of Ukraine unfolded in real time through social media, dubbed the first TikTok war. Given the power and centrality of engineering in global conflicts, as well as the rapid pace at which engineering and technology are evolving, it is increasingly critical to explore how engineering can be used to facilitate peace. So, with my two colleagues at the National Academy of Engineering, we're actually developing a prospectus right now and proposing to lead a joint forum in partnership with the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, Canadian Academy of Engineering, the Royal Academy of Engineering, and a few other agencies to explore how the engineering profession and approaches can facilitate peace building in a modern context. This NAE-led forum would convene senior decision makers and thought leaders and a wide range of stakeholders from governments, businesses, universities, civic leaders, and non-governmental organizations of the US, as well as international members, to facilitate a generative and impartial discussion about the role of engineering in peace building. And we hope that through this diverse group of people, the participants would contribute their expertise in relevant fields, including and extending beyond engineering, such as the arts, humanities, civics, justice, and global affairs. Interesting to note that when we were drafting this prospectus, one of our staff members asked Google's AI Bard, generative AI, if engineering can build peace. Bard answered yes, and provided multiple examples. It noted, however, that engineering is not a magic bullet for peace. There are many other factors that contribute to peace, such as good governance, social justice, and respect for human rights. However, engineering can play an important role in demystifying peace and developing solutions to address the complex challenges that we face. And so, what we're looking for is in this forum is to study things and have an exchange of ideas with action items, A, for reliability of information and cybersecurity. Because as you know, and I mentioned earlier, this is one of the greatest threats facing society today is the spread of misinformation, false or inaccurate information, and disinformation. That is false information which is deliberately intended to mislead. This has affected our nation and the entire world in unprecedented ways, ranging from our ability to improve public health, address climate change, protect personal data, maintain a stable democracy, and more. Typical examples include conspiracy theories pertaining to COVID-19 vaccinations, denial of global warming, aggression on personal privacy, and election fraud theory. This in spite of scientific and practical evidence to the contrary. And we're going to be looking at focusing on why misinformation and disinformation permeate our society, meaning intentional manipulation, ignorance, racism, bigotry, misogyny, etc. We're going to be looking at various channels that it spreads through: social media, television, literature, racist groups, adversarial countries, and others, and see its characteristics, the format, lack of credible references, unqualified propagators, and finally, implementing advances in technology and other forms of learning, example, psychological science, to identify and control or stop its spread. So we're going to look at further the utilization of advances in sensing technologies, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to look for patterns of unsubstantiated data, inherent bias, intentional or unintentional, in the training data, or falsification, and creating a sustainable value for corrective false information. Now, the other things we will look at is also, I won't get into too much detail, but give you just an outline. Is how do we use technology to prevent and or minimize collateral damage in the conduct of war? You have seen in real time what's happening in Ukraine and in Palestine. In order to attack one or two individuals, the amount of collateral damage, hundreds of people are dying. And that's not acceptable. So we have to understand how engineering's role in war and peace has evolved in recent years. What are the technical aspects of modern peace building? Historical and broader discussions surrounding the utilization of precision sensors and networks, electronic battlefields, autonomous vehicles, cloud computing, computational intelligence, and advanced electronic countermeasures. And then look at what are the social drivers affecting peace: mobile devices, social platforms, spontaneous flow of information, free exchange of ideas and facts, and degrading of truth in a very intentional way. And then we have to look at the effects on famine, agriculture, and global warming. In spite of substantial supporting scientific data, there are several people who consider climate change a hoax. To them, extreme weather is seen as part of life and are natural occurrences. They do not draw a connection between the intensity or frequency and climate change. The need to convey to the general public the causes of famine and climate effects on agriculture is extremely important. Topics for discussion in our forum could include broader civic capabilities, including urban infrastructure, transportation, smart cities, sustainability, economic growth and degrowth, and climate change. Also, the effect of human behavior and related facets, such as income disparities, religious beliefs, cultural issues, diversity, pluralism, education, and employment in society need to be addressed. And finally, we will try to look at a discussion on advancing an engineering and humanity-centered systems approach to engaging with various factors that influence peace, including transportation, energy, healthcare, and education as necessary. So hopefully this gives you an idea of what my statement originally meant in terms of bringing people together in order to establish a more just and stable society. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Andre.
Yeah, wow, that's powerful. When are you looking to have that symposium happen?
Uh, right now, we're developing a prospectus, and the three of us will probably first do an op-ed
Okay.
for one of our major journals, get people excited, and then start laying down the foundations with the other academies. So I would say we are probably looking at the later part of 2025
Yeah, got you. Okay.
because you can see there are very complex issues involved here.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's a myriad of complex issues that are really at the heart of what's going on right now, right? And those are things we
That's
just
right.
can't ignore. Hearing, I mean, that was a lot, and thanks for sharing. And note too that if you have anything you want to share on screen, we can do that too, and that could help bring a visual aspect to whatever you're talking about. But I'm curious within all those things that you discussed in the overview, a lot of those topics you'll be learning on, you'll be learning a lot. You'll also be contributing a lot to this prospectus. Where do you feel like, as of right now, you have the strongest grasp on as far as those categories you mentioned? And can you maybe speak more on one of those? What outlook you see and what you want to contribute to the prospectus?
Well, I think there are several areas. One, the thing that I think is extremely important is how do we decipher and eliminate intentional or unintentional misinformation? That is one of the biggest damages that is being caused here.
Hmm.
Let's take something for example. You've got two candidates running for, say, President of the United States on the same topic, not different topics, on the same topic. Each one is giving an opposing point of view, totally opposites. And you've got enough people believing one and enough people believing the other. How do you decipher truth? Because the perception is what becomes truth in the mind of people, and we have to prevent that. Actual truth has to be presented in a manner where there is no infiltration of falsification. Look what happened with the COVID-19 vaccine situation. I mean, God, it saved so many lives. And yet, we have so many conspiracy theories. So I think one of the things is falsification of information. How do we prevent that? Second thing is, and this is very drastic, we keep hearing every few months major cybersecurity attacks. In a free country like ours, our privacy means a lot to us. And the damage on a personal basis, psychological basis, economic basis, and so many other aspects, this cybersecurity attacks, is a major threat to the security of our nation and to our people. So that's an important thing. And the third thing, but I think I can contribute a lot would be in the technology, the
Yeah.
way we are developing artificial intelligence and machine learning, the sensing technologies that we're developing. We're talking about high precision things where we minimize collateral damage and that we only do not hit innocent people, that these things are precise. Well, in spite of that, in spite of using all this, look at the collateral damage that's taking place. Why? We need to understand that. Is it a reliability issue? Is it a technological issue? Is it because we have not looked at it from an overall systems perspective? So those are the three areas that I think are most important where no one person can solve it. That's why we want to bring in this, you know, very diverse perspective of people from different backgrounds, different expertise, those that come from the humanities and the arts, from the sciences, the engineering, the medical profession, and so on. So, as you can see, it's a complex thing we're looking at, but one that is extremely necessary.
Yeah, for sure. And given, I mean, maybe we can speak more on on some of that collateral damage that's happening right now in war and the technologies. And you mentioned the origin of engineering and its connection to war. And so that's constant that you see as, I don't know, in stepping back and trying to frame what a human being is or what a human society is, how these engineers then create the weapons and the capabilities to extend the power, the force, the ability to manipulate reality in a space that can then, kill and deter other people. Engineering has played such a vital role in that from the origin. How do you? I mean, and you've worked in defense, and you've worked for creating, defense technologies throughout your career. Maybe you can speak more about the responsibility or even the thought about what it means to be an engineer and the power that it holds within the context of something like collateral damage, like where you would think that, we have rules for war now. We've developed as a global species into, okay, we can't stop war totally, but at least if you're going to fight in a war, this is some of the rules that we've outlined, and collateral damage and creating famine, et cetera. These aren't things that we allow, and they seem to be things that we can avoid.
That's a good question, Andre. You look at it from this perspective. Um, Technology was developed for defense of our nation and also to prevent those that are threats to our nation. So it's offensive and defensive. But the engineering profession, the training, the academic institutions, in general, train engineers how to design, how to understand the physical principles, how to do a reliable design, how to do a complex design, how to do devices, subsystems, systems. But there never was that much of a need. Some schools did, like at an undergraduate level, I will start a course in ethics of engineering. But that has been rare. Today, it's become extremely important with the way that technology is changing, and especially the way with artificial intelligence evolving, generative AI, for example. And it's a moving target. It's evolving at such a fast pace, and you can have so much benefit come from it, and you can cause so much damage with it. I believe that we have to have at the educational level, not just at the college level, at the K through 12, starting there, young age, we have to teach courses in ethics, the role of professional societies, the role of engineering, the role of your profession, whatever that profession may be, and its ethical implications in society. Everybody has to be taught the importance and the responsibility of our actions when it comes to an ethical conduct in society. So I think that's where it's got to start. And then that same culture not has to be taught, but has to be ingrained within organizations. So people understand the responsibilities of the design and your own responsibility if things go wrong. It is very important to know the effects of what your own contributions are going to have. So we have to make sure that things are designed for the purpose they are. We have enough reliability aspects taken into account, but also look at it from a systems perspective, not just from one particular narrow-minded view, but to look at other aspects of how this technology can affect not only your mission, but the other things that where damage can be caused and how can that be minimized.
Yeah. And so you've when did you come to the United States?
I came to the United States right after my high school, which I did through the University of Cambridge in Bombay, because because of the British rule, and my school was part of the University of Cambridge. And I came in 1966 to study electronics. At that time, the transistor radios had started becoming ubiquitous, and it was amazing. The whole world was wondering, you could now hold a small little radio in your hand and you could get all the music and the news without the whole family having to sit in front of one radio. And that fascinated me. So I came to the RCA Institutes in New York, which is the only place that offered a full program for electronics technology. That was the original Marconi Institute that was started in 1909 by the Nobel laureate Guglielmo Marconi right after he won the Nobel Prize. And then the name was changed to RCA Institutes when I came there. And after that, I went on to UCLA to do my undergraduate and graduate in electrical sciences and engineering, and went on to MIT to get my degree in management, the program for senior executives.
Hmm. Hmm. And so, I mean, you've seen the United States since you were, 18, 19.
Well, this year, on the 31st of August, I will complete 58 years and start my 59th year in the US.
Oh, wow.
I came as an 18-year-old kid and had my 19th birthday all alone in New York City.
Oh my goodness. Well, I couldn't tell. I mean, it looks like you if you got here at 19, maybe you've been here 30 years max. But switching gears on that, like you've seen the United States through a lot of eras, a lot of different times. Cold War time when you started. There's this current era that we're living in now. We talked about back to the idea of information and about civic engagement and about getting this ability to decipher truth and to free think and to critically think at an early age, to not be duped and deceived. I mean, even as early as that transistor radio, you could all of a sudden have people spreading lies if you'd like, right? It could be, I mean, since the beginning, since Rome, etc., lies have been told to people to deceive them about what was really going on, and they had to decipher the truth. It seems like in the past it was more of a thing of getting any information. Now it's a thing of deciphering what information is actually signal versus noise, right?
Very
And,
true. Very true.
and so have you seen I mean, and you've taught, like you're teaching now, you've been a CEO of a company and sold it. And have you seen within the institutions of the United States, within the citizens, a sort of degradation in civic engagement? How is it that so much is being able to happen where citizens aren't having the power to resist some of the governmental forces, et cetera, from the things that are happening in the world, right? If there's, for example, collateral damage that citizens aren't happy about, how are their voices and their intentions not being able to be translated into action? So I'm curious of, I guess that's a wide ranging sort of questions, but yeah, I'll let you take it.
Well, it's a wide-ranging question. It's a very deep, it's a very deep question, and I'll do my best to answer it in as simple a manner as I can. If you looked at the 60s, 70s, and even 80s, it's not that human nature has changed. Human nature is human nature. Racism has existed, misogyny has existed, bigotry has existed. I mean, as a young kid growing up, I idolized Muhammad Ali. I looked up to Martin Luther King Jr., to their values, their systems. But the lines were the lines of demarcation were identifiable. You saw who stood for what. You saw the oppression of the blacks. You saw the situation with immigration, which was much simpler. You saw the stance on wars. We grew up in an era of the 60s where young kids, through the power of music and brotherhood and sisterhood, brought an end to a major war in Vietnam.
Yeah.
There was idealism of some sort. And I use that word idealism not as a negative, as a positive.
Hmm.
There was some sort of a balance. Not to say that problems didn't exist. They did exist, as I said. Fast forward. Today, we have technology that has advanced at such a rapid rate that a lot of people are petrified with technology. Several have not been able to keep up with it. And third, it's evolving at such a rapid rate that even for experts to keep up with it is by no means an easy task. Now, think about those people that have not been able to keep up with technology. They don't know, when information is being provided with technology, what is true and what is false. They don't know what to believe. So whoever makes a convincing argument that they can personally relate with, they believe. That doesn't mean that they're believing in the truth. We didn't have things like cybersecurity hacks that are going on over here. We did not have artificial intelligence and machine learning to the point where it can write books for you, write reports for you, create false data for you, create real data for you. So society has undergone a tremendous change in every respect, primarily driven by technology and the inability of our general population to be able to keep up with advances in technology. And the reason I'm saying this is I'm a very strong believer in education and the importance of education in keeping our population at least literate to a certain level in technology. And when I say population, I'm not just talking about the masses, I'm also talking about our houses and our Senate.
Mm.
I see people talking, having no concept and no understanding of technology. I remember that Mark Zuckerberg interview that took place. The questions that some of the people were asking, senators and congressmen, showed their own lack of understanding. They didn't even know what to ask him. So this is where the situation is. This is where I see how the world has changed. And
Yeah.
it's not going to get any slower. So
No.
you can't say that I'm going to stop it. Progress cannot be stopped. You know, and you cannot treat technology as being dangerous. It is as dangerous as a knife or a gun. It depends on whose hand and who's using it and what the intention is. But what you can do is emphasize its importance, its fundamental principles, and provide a certain level of literacy to our population so that they have at least a minimum level of ability to be able to choose between the information that is given for them and the ability to decipher what is real and what is not real.
Yeah. Well, switching gears a bit, taking the foot off the pedal a little. You're one of the great engineers of our time. The IEEE Medal of Honor is its highest honor, and you were granted that in 2022. Inventors Hall of Fame is another massive honor. Who are some of the great engineers and inventors that you may have looked up to coming up? You mentioned Marconi. And secondly, what makes a great engineer? What are the components of a great, I mean, think about it as like, I mean, that's part of my aim, here is to, sort of distill the elements of some of these fields to young people so that they can aspire more clearly to engage with that topic, right? We know what makes a great basketball player. We know the elements. We know the different things. Oh, you can be an inside shooter, outside shooter. Is it the handle? Is it dribble? Well, I mean, engineers, and I have another follow-up to that based on something you mentioned. And so, yeah, what makes a great engineer? What are those components? And then who are some of the greats? Who are the, top engineers that of all time or, in your mind, some of the heroes, something like that?
Okay. First, let me give you the simple answer. If you ask me who was my hero in science, I mean, it would have to be Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
Because till today, people haven't understood how his mind worked, how he came up with the whole notion of space-time, and the manner in which his whole general and special theory of relativity has transformed our world. He's spending billions of dollars verifying the things that he predicted and have to prove even one of his claims to be wrong.
Wow.
So that's incredible.
Yeah.
In terms of engineering, there have been great engineers, but one that I particularly think is very worthwhile noting is Claude Shannon.
Oh, yeah, information theory.
What his contribution did for information theory cannot be overemphasized. Of course, there are other greats. I mean, you've got Tesla, you've got Marconi, and there are so many of them.
Yes, yes.
But the idea here to for your audience to recognize, you said, what makes a good engineer? To do that first, I think we should understand what's a scientist and what's an engineer. And there are several people that can give several definitions. The one that I found particularly enlightening and inspirational, and I've used it on several occasions, is what Werner von Karman, the first director of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, once said. He said, a scientist is an individual who discovers the world as it is. An engineer is an individual who creates a world that never was. So the function of an engineer, in my opinion,
Yeah.
is to understand the principles of science and research and see how we can use those for the benefit of humanity. Benefit of humanity, meaning not just improve quality of life for humans, for the betterment and sustainability of our planet, to create a more peaceful, harmonious, and equal society, and fundamentally to make sure that every individual has a right to freedom and to happiness and the quality of life. That's how I would define an engineer.
It's fantastic. So, you saw the opportunity in gyro chips. We haven't talked much about it. We should probably dive a little bit into that. But when you look out today, what is one invention or one problem or engineering thing that you would go to try to solve that will have the greatest impact, you think, right now, jumping into it if you're a 20-something-year-old?
Well, I think the most important thing that I would do is, the problem that I would go after is, how do we come up with technology that allows us to decipher fact from fiction? How can we provide real information to the populace and give them a fair shot of understanding the world as it is, so that we can remove the unintended or intended biases? How can we make contributions technically that make it equal and fair to everybody? I mean, to give you an example, what I mean by unintended technical or unintended biases. Have you noticed when you go to the airports, depending on the country you go to, let's say over here, you see somebody washing their hands in the toilet, and they say lighter complexions. Somebody with a darker complexion comes, they're having difficulty. You look at countries in Asia, and people over there washing their hands, and somebody who's a foreigner with a lighter skin comes in, trying to wash their hands, occasionally they'll have a problem. The reason is the sensors and the system was designed over a spread of population. The training data was acquired over their natural available resources.
Yeah.
So not everything was taken into account. The diversity aspect wasn't taken into account. So this is the thing of unintended consequences from a bias standpoint. So to come up with ways how we can make sure that we remove the unintended biases or intended biases from training data, we come up with some really important ways of how we can prevent the cyber security hacks that are taking place. Very important. And fundamentally, technology that allows us to maintain our quality of life, makes us the leader that we are, and help propagate our values, which is of fairness and justice, not just to our own population, but to the world in general, which I think has come into question in the last decade or so.
Yeah. How did you recognize the opportunity in gyro chips and how big they could be?
So to answer your question about the gyro chip and this whole defense conversion, I think it's important to provide some contextual background. As you know, I was with Sistron Donner Corporation, and eventually as chairman, president, and CEO. And in 1992, I led the merger of all the sister-and-daughter companies, majority of them with BEI Electronics, which was run by Charles Crocker. And we developed a new company called BEI Technologies, which was listed on NASDAQ. One of our divisions during my sister-and-daughter days was sister-and-daughter inertial division. And of course, it became part of BEI then. This particular division celebrated in the early 1990s about 40 years of excellence in satisfying the inertial needs of aerospace and defense markets, primarily with a product line of high precision accelerometers for space, missile, and aircraft applications. During that time, we licensed a concept, not a product, just a concept of a new MEMS-based, quartz-based rate gyroscope technology. So first, let me define what is MEMS for your audience. MEMS stands for micro electromechanical systems. It is taking really large things, miniaturizing them, using semiconductor processing techniques. But the difficulty is this: even the most complex semiconductor chip has active and passive devices like transistors, diodes, capacitors, resistors. MEMS not only has that, but it has actually dynamic devices, physically moving devices, sensing devices. It's very complex. And so we licensed a technology or a concept for a quartz rate gyroscope using monocrystalline piezoelectric quartz, the material that is used in quartz crystals in your watches. Now, the concept of using a tuning fork to detect angular rate is not new. You know, Sperry had already done that with the gyrotron in the very early 1900s. That was a huge, massive item.
It's a big tuning fork to figure out the angular rotation.
That's exactly right.
Got it.
Through the Coriolis force. Now, so we started developing this technology because we saw that a whole new generation of technology was needed to address the aerospace and defense markets. And we started becoming very well known. And during this period of time, we developed some of the most advanced inertial systems and sensors you could think of. The world's first MEMS-based inertial measurement unit. And that using our tuning fork. Now here, I might add that it was right around the time when the Berlin Wall came down. And all companies across the United States and the rest of the world were paying the price for peace dividend. And in our case, this great technology of ours did a tremendous job in the aerospace and defense market, but had not yet penetrated any high level or high volume manufacturing, as is typical for aerospace and defense. To give you an example, the highest we had shipped for any program was 10,000 units a year. And each axis, row, pitch, or yaw, was roughly between $1,800 to $2,200. Wow. And a full system could go into a couple $100,000, a full inertial measurement unit. So here we were sitting with a great technology, which nobody else in the world had. And our market was collapsing right in front of us for this very important division of ours. We had many other divisions, but this was the biggest. So here was a choice, you know, stick your head in the sand and die, or really take some very bold actions. I was president and CEO, but at the same time, and Charles Crocker was I was the president and chief operating officer and the CTO, and Charles Crocker was the chairman and CEO. And we had to do some really big soul searching. After performing an extensive market survey, we identified a significant growth opportunity for an extremely low-cost, solid-state rate gyroscope for the automotive application, for stability control. Now, stability control systems, they measure the yaw rate. A yaw rate is the lateral movement of a car, which means the intent of the driver. The computer compares that output with the lateral movement of the car and decides if the car, even in the slightest manner, is not going to behave with the intent of the driver. It takes control of the front, left, and right brakes in order to prevent a fishtail or spin out and roll over. And this is particularly important when you're going on slippery roads or taking very acute turns. Now, we identified this market, something we had no experience in, because we came from the A&D background. And most of the engineers had grown up with me many years. I got them all together and said, we've taken a decision that our aerospace and defense market is going down. We're going to go after the automotive market for electronic stability control and rollover prevention. And here started the biggest challenge of my life. Some of the great engineers said, you are asking us to develop the same technology in a very simple form at a very low cost. And we have developed with you some of the greatest and the most advanced chips that the world has ever seen using this technology. I said, yes, that's exactly what I'm asking you to do. Well, isn't that humiliating? I said, on the contrary. If you're that proud of what we developed, and which we are, let's go apply for a Nobel Prize. That isn't going to save the company. And my friends, remember, anybody can design anything given sufficient time and resources. With the automotive industry, you have to design to cost. You cannot add one more cent. It's a totally unforgiving market. There is no vendor loyalty. If a person has been providing them something for years and years, and you come up and provide the same thing, same with better specifications for a cent less, you're gone. Well, several of them balked at it. Several agreed, okay, let's do it. And I said, look, I'm giving you one more chance. I will have each and every one of you trained. We will bring in the best experts on handling quartz. We'll bring them from Seiko. We'll bring them from all the world's greatest places that handle quartz. We'll get the best quality assurance people from the automotive industry. We will look at our whole re-engineering of the company. I will personally lead that. Some agreed and others didn't. For those that didn't, and these are very, very important scientists and technologists I had to tell them that just the way an individual outgrows a company, sometimes a company outgrows an individual. I had to let them go. And the rest, I instilled a whole re-engineering of the company. I had to re-engineer the company without abandoning the aerospace and defense business. So while we were doing the aerospace and defense company, I had to overhaul and re-engineer the whole quality system, enterprise resource planning computer system, electronic data inter-exchange, customer ordering, statistical process controls, factory automation, technology road mapping techniques for continuous cost reduction, engineering design and validation techniques for lowest unit cost, and development of a complete global supplier base. The biggest challenge, however, was changing the engineering mentality. As I said, designing to lowest cost versus just designing. The challenge was this, Andre, that we had to reduce the cost of our inertial sensors, which is called the quartz rate sensor. Eventually, it was named the Gyro chip. From the $1,800 and $2,200 in access, 10,000 a year, to millions of units a month at $50 or less a unit.
Whoa.
You see the challenge?
Yes.
And the cost reduction occurred through selective investments in automation, significant advances in design techniques and mass production techniques. You can't just automate everything. Nobody has that kind of money. So to give you a background, the QRS, Quartz System manufacturing process and techniques were redesigned for mass production, primarily in fork fabrication, fork balancing, hermetic packaging, final assembly, calibration, and test. The labor-intensive processes were replaced by automation and proofing against human error. Continuous cost reductions were planned with 5-year technology roadmaps. Products achieved the primary customer needs of performance and specifications and continuous fault detection capabilities for safety-critical applications. Established a common quartz fabrication facility that served both the aerospace and defense and the automotive markets. And these products, both automotive and aerospace and defense, took advantage of this single quartz-fit fabrication facility where high-volume automotive components were fed back into selected A&D products for extremely favorable cost benefits. These major changes, based on leveraging the aerospace and defense technology into the automotive and transportation, and reverse leveraging the high-volume, low-cost automotive components back into aerospace and defense markets, allowed the company to dramatically ramp up production, shipping millions of units while it continued serving the aerospace and defense market.
Wow.
The classic semiconductor industry technique of more chips per silicon wafer, the Moore's law, was embraced by progressively moving from 1 tuning fork per wafer to 2, 4, 8, 16, and 56. All these designs utilize the same size wafer. This batch manufacturing, together with laser trimming and electronic programming, radically reduced the cost of the tuning fork. But we had to come up with some extraordinary designs. These are mass-based sensors. The signal that you're detecting, unlike the Moore's law for semiconductor, the signal that you're detecting is based on mass. Make it smaller and you're losing your signal-to-noise ratio. We came up with some innovative designs with the performance degradation that was caused due to fork size reduction in such mass-based sensors was not only significantly mitigated, but actually the revolutionary tuning fork designs that we came up with improved the performance.
So you got smaller when you're trying to measure mass, which is a space you need to measure with being bigger. You somehow got smaller and more accurate.
That's it.
That's fantastic.
Beautifully. Another major hurdle was to implement self-monitoring for safety-critical systems. Rate gyroscope applications frequently occur in systems that create a dangerous situation if the gyro fails without the host system detecting the rate sensing devices providing faulty information. Like in automotive stability control, brake systems generate the direction-changing brake commands independent of the driver. That's dangerous if something goes wrong with the system. For this reason, the safety system may become a totally unsafe system if it erroneously activates the brakes. Unlike other limited self-test, the gyro chip was embedded with a patented technique called CBET, continuous built-in test, which had the capability of monitoring end-to-end sensor and electronics health continuously during operation. And this was a major breakthrough for safety-critical systems. Now, the first high-volume production of the gyro chip, yaw sensor for lateral movement detection, commenced in June 1996 with the application of the Cadillac Stibular track system, and then Corvettes. An unexpected event in the fall of 1997 determined that the market would mushroom at rates that were multiple of 100% per year. This event was the loss of control and rollover of a new European vehicle by a Swedish automobile magazine editor, while executing a maneuver that is known as the elk test, which is to simulate the avoidance of an animal such as an elk crossing the road, especially on the Autobahn. The test showed that this car turned over. And this was a firestorm of adverse publicity. And in reaction to this elk maneuver episode, the manufacturer committed to fit all future vehicles with stability control. The European market, the manufacturer, seized this opportunity and decided to significantly ramp up their operations of stability control. The gyro chip demand for us skyrocketed by a factor of 10 to cover 400,000 units in the first year of production. We had not even learned how to crawl, let alone walk or run. And by 2002, we had shipped well in excess of 5 million gyroscopes. We had to learn how to walk and run at the same time. And with focused leadership and pioneering technical innovations, the gyro chip evolved from a single-axis yaw rate sensor to a fully packaged, complete automotive inertial measurement unit, meaning 6 degrees of freedom, roll, pitch, yaw, and acceleration detection in X, Y, and Z axes. And then we made inroads taking this technology to the aerospace and defense market. The thing that I want to mention here is we have a lot of scars in our back, but this is one of the greatest defense conversion stories that took place at that time. The gyro chip technology revolutionized navigation stability in aerospace and automotive systems. Its applications range from satellites to airliners and cars. It is in use worldwide in over 80 models of passenger cars for automotive stability and rollover protection systems, in over 90 types of aircraft, including the autonomous control electronics for the pitch stability control of Boeing 777 and the Stretch 77, as yaw dampers for over 3,000 Boeing 737 aircrafts, in most business jets for attitude, heading, and reference, and for guidance, navigation, and control in major UAV, missile, helicopter, and space programs. It's also the main technology for Rockwell Collins ProLine 21 avionics suites, NASA's Sojourner, the Mars rover,
Whoa.
EVA robotic camera, the AirCam Sprint, numerous satellites, and for Archer, the airborne hyperspectral imaging system used by Civil Air Patrol in search and rescue and disaster management missions. The redesign of this resulted in one of the most successful defense conversions, as I've told you.
Yeah.
And electronic stability control and rollover prevention are of paramount importance to human safety. And frankly, I have to say with great humility that thanks to our company and our efforts and our team that we enjoy when driving a car or flying on an airplane. By 2005, we had shipped over 55 million gyroscopes, and their use for stability augmentation in passenger cars has saved millions of lives around the world. So 2006, we got an unsolicited bid from Schneider Electric for all of BEI technologies, or rather in 2005 itself. We were not looking for a sale, but it was the right time, and a sale took place, after which they wanted me to run their entire North American operations. I declined. After being very grateful. I already had a heart attack and I'd done very well with the sale. It was time for me to do some other things that I was really interested in. I started working and doing a lot of work for the National Academy of Engineering and joined my alma mater on the faculty of the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department. And that's where I'm not teaching, but I'm guiding graduate research in some very cutting edge technology.
Wow. Well, congrats on that. I mean, that's pretty spectacular and remarkable. No wonder you've amassed all these accolades. It's such a massive technology in so many different fields, flying cars, flying airplanes, cars going around. If self-driving cars are going to work, it's going to be based with that technology everywhere. You can't do it.
Without this technology, you cannot have autonomous cars because
you can't have autonomous vehicles.
That's where you got the guidance from. And this was just one technology. I mean, we also developed the pointing system for the Hubble Space Telescope.
My goodness.
And we did. I don't want to get into it because that's a discussion all by itself. But
yes,
some very, very groundbreaking research. But that pretty much gives you an idea of at least one of these technologies. And now I'm focused at UCLA on guiding doctoral and postdoctoral research in some very important areas, which is wearable, non-invasive healthcare for detecting human physiological conditions, including cardiac conditions. We're involved in computational sensing. We continue the work in miniaturizing inertial navigation systems. And we're involved in new forms of artificial intelligence and machine learning.
That's fantastic. And so it was also a lucrative endeavor at the end of the day. I know I mean, a lot of young people, they're overly obsessed with money, and that's engineering. They go there often for that reason, that either their father or mother said that you have to be an engineer or doctor, or because they know it's going to make a lot of money. And they miss out on just the revolutionary and remarkable range and reach of engineering contributions to society and humanity. I mean, and it was also lucrative at the end. You had a business and you sold the business, and it was a great thing. And so there can be both, and people can get excited by that.
You're absolutely right. People tell me, what did you think in your professional career in industry for almost 40 years? What was the most gratifying? And I answer by saying, the most gratifying thing is that the technologies I worked on with my team has saved millions of lives around the world. We have extended the limits of space exploration and enhanced our understanding of the universe, and we provided for the defense and security of our nation. And second, that when the sale took place, it was not just Charles Crocker and Asad Madni that walked away financially as millionaires. No, the team that stood by us through all these years, every one of them walked away where they could afford to retire and were financially independent.
Yeah, that's I guess that's a great place to end it. I mean, that's the remarkable nature of what you can do when you take that knowledge and you go through you get inspired. You got inspired by the transistor and the radio, and you started your journey. And we can inspire young people to start their journeys, however we get them there, then teach them the hard part, get them into the hard part of the engineering, get them through the math, get them through the things, and knowing that there's outcome and inspiring stories like yours, and continuing to be inspiring as we're trying to leverage engineering towards peace, towards another era of destruction, and the negative aspects of human nature come to the forefront. We have individuals like yourself who are continuing to leverage all their powers, whether it be the technological ones or the civic and humanitarian ones, towards a better future. And so appreciate you for coming on to National Champion Radio. You're certainly a national champion, 3-time national champion, if I can say so. And your presence has been fantastic for this show and for reality itself, your mark that you've left and continue to leave. So thank you for coming by.
Andrew, thank you so much. You're a wonderful host. I enjoyed your questions. I enjoyed interacting with you.
All right. Well, have a great rest of the day, and look forward to keeping in touch and talking soon.
Absolutely.
All right.
Bye-bye.